Hello and welcome to Guidance Review. I'm David Pudwill, and today we're going to be talking about the de novo classification process. So, a couple key takeaways for today's video. One, what is the de novo classification process and when can it be used? Two, how to submit a de novo request for FDA review. And three, the FDA review process, timeline, and a few user fee questions. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So if we scroll down, we can go check out the docket. There are about 6 notices with 17 comments that I could find. FDA identifies something like 23 comments as of today's recording. But we'll go ahead and actually just go straight to the guidance document and start walking through there rather than go through all of the docket information. If you want to, you can go through that on your own. So in the actual guidance document that was issued in 2017, there was a draft in 2014, and there was also some previous guidance in 1998 that we can see here. There's some contact information if you're looking for it for both CDRH and CBER. And as we can see here, this is a guidance document for CDRH and for CBER. Here's a public comment statement on additional copies, just some of the front matter. And then we get into an introduction. The purpose of this document is to provide guidance on the process for the submission and review of a de novo classification request under Section 513F2 of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, also known as the de novo classification process. This process provides a pathway to Class 1 or Class 2 classification for medical devices for which general controls or general and special controls provide a reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness, but for which there is no legally marketed predicate device. FDA's guidance documents, including this guidance, do not establish legally enforceable responsibilities. Instead, guidance describe the agency's current thinking on a topic and should be viewed only as recommendations unless specific regulatory or statutory requirements are cited. This is just sort of the standard verbiage here for FDA guidance documents. And in terms of a little bit of background, a device may be classified in Class 3 and may be subject to pre-market approval or PMA through several different regulatory vehicles. In accordance with the criteria at Section 513A1C of the FD&C Act, FDA may promulgate a regulation classifying or issue an order reclassifying a device type into Class 3 based on the risks posed by the device and the inability of general and special controls to provide reasonable assurance of the safety and effectiveness of the device. All particular devices of such a type are considered to be in Class 3, and such devices are not eligible for the de novo classification process. Alternatively, devices of a new type that FDA has not previously classified based on that criteria is automatically or statutorily classified into Class 3 by operation of 513F1, regardless of the level of risk they pose or the ability of general and special controls to assure safety and effectiveness. This is because, by definition, a new type of device would not be within a type that was on the market before the 1976 Medical Device Amendments, or that has since been classified into Class 1 or Class 2. Thus, there would be no available predicate device. This second scenario is what Congress targeted for de novo. And this could come about either through a 510K being found not substantially equivalent, or according to the current process, it could be a direct de novo. And here, FDA goes through a little bit of the detail here around how to request a de novo if there was a not substantially equivalent determination on a 510K. And this is that second bit I mentioned. So a de novo request can be submitted without a preceding 510K and NC, and they call that a direct de novo. And this guidance gives a little bit more detail on the process and the mechanisms that you can follow to get to a de novo. And here is some general detail on submitting a de novo. And FDA is supposed to make a classification determination within 120 days of the request. If the requester demonstrates that the criteria are met, FDA will grant the de novo request, in which case the specific device and device type is classified in Class 1 or Class 2. And this allows the device to be marketed immediately, creates a classification regulation for devices of this type. That would be the devices that would be substantially equivalent to your de novo, and permits the device to serve as a predicate device. We will publish a notice in the Federal Register announcing the classification and the controls necessary to provide reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness. Note, the classification, including any special controls, is effective on the date the order letter is issued granting the de novo request. If the de novo request is declined, the device remains in Class 3 and may not be marketed unless the device is found substantially equivalent to an existing legally marketed Class 1, Class 2, or pre-amendments device. The device is reclassified, or a PMA is approved, or a new de novo request is granted. When the de novo classification process may and may not be used. FDA will review de novo requests for devices that are not within a device type that has been classified under the criteria for 513A1 of the FD&C Act. This includes devices that do not fall within any existing classification regulation, where the de novo requester either determines that there is no predicate device or has received an NSE determination on a 510K submission. If the device is within a type for which there is an existing classification regulation or one or more approved PMAs, the appropriate mechanism for classification into Class 1 or 2 would be reclassification under Section 513E or Section 513F3. For devices that have already undergone 510K review, FDA will consider a de novo request if the device has been determined to be NSE due to 1. The lack of an identifiable predicate device, 2. A new intended use, or 3. Different technological characteristics that raise different questions of safety and effectiveness. Devices that have been found to be NSE due solely to performance data that is inadequate to demonstrate substantial equivalence would generally be ineligible for the de novo classification process. In addition, bear in mind here that FDA will tell you that you're automatically Class 3 even in some of these instances. So just bear in mind that that doesn't mean you should then pursue a de novo. In addition, the following criteria should be met for a device for which a de novo request is submitted. The device should appear, based on what is known about the device, to meet the statutory standards for classification into Class 1 or Class 2 under Section 513A1. General controls or general and special controls would provide reasonable assurance of the safety and effectiveness of the device, and you should sufficiently understand and be able to explain all of the probable risks to health and probable benefits of the device, explain the measures needed to effectively mitigate all probable risks, and explain how device safety and effectiveness can be assured through the application of general controls or general and special controls. And FDA is going to reference their benefit risk guidance documents and framework that they would expect you to follow in making some of these decisions. So here's that link to that particular guidance document here. This guidance describes 2 mechanisms for interacting with FDA regarding a device for which de novo classification may be appropriate. One is to start with a PreSub, and while a PreSub is not required in order to obtain FDA review of a de novo request, it's useful for requesters to obtain early feedback from FDA. So if you don't already have a submission ready to go and you're working through some things, it would be generally a good idea to go ahead and submit a pre-submission to FDA, and gives you the opportunity to obtain preliminary perspective on the likely regulatory controls necessary, as well as feedback on the evidence, including non-clinical and clinical data that will be necessary to support the de novo request. And by obtaining this feedback, you can limit some of that back and forth and unnecessary testing that would otherwise likely ensue. Or you can go straight to a de novo request. It can be submitted with or without a preceding 510K. The success of a de novo request that is filed without a pre-sub will depend more heavily on how well you search for a potential predicate device, identify the risk to health and special controls, and provide adequate, valid scientific evidence to support granting the de novo request. I generally recommend not doing this second path, but it's possible depending on what previous interactions you've already had with FDA or what kind of regulatory input you have from somebody who can walk you through the process. It's possible you could go this route, and it may be the right path to take for you. Generally, though, I would suggest, and FDA would suggest, that you take the first path. The de novo process is outlined in attachment 1. That's going to be here. So we can walk through that. You would have a optional pre-submission, then the submission of the de novo request, which is going to be required regardless of the path you take. And then if there's no active submission for the same device, then review will continue. If there is not, if this is not applicable, so if there are existing active submissions, or if information wasn't provided to determine whether a potential predicate device exists, or if the proposed special controls are not provided, then the de novo request will be put on hold and these issues will be identified. If this is addressed, then you proceed to FDA classification review. And if there's a likely predicate or class 3 regulation or approved PMA for the same device type, then the de novo will get declined. Well, it'll get declined and you'll be identified that you need to submit a PMA or discuss reclassification. If there's already a likely predicate, then there'll be a decline and FDA will tell you to submit a 510K unless it's 510K exempt. But presumably you wouldn't be here if you'd been able to identify a predicate, but possibly FDA would kick you in this direction. If there is not a likely predicate or existing regulation or approved PMA, then FDA moves into substantive review and potentially asks for additional information. The submission gets put on hold until you respond, and then FDA substantive review continues in this iterative process until you've addressed all of their additional information questions. Bear in mind you're going to have a limited window of time to answer these requests for substantive review. Generally 180 days, though with COVID, that's going to be 270 because of the 90-day extension. And once FDA has completed their review, then if the requirements for Class 1 or Class 2 are met, then the de novo request will be granted. If not, then the de novo request will be declined. And potentially a new de novo request will be required, or FDA may tell you that a PMA is required. So if we go ahead and continue, FDA has given you some detail here for submitting a pre-submission. And there's a link that you can follow to put together your pre-submission for FDA. And FDA suggests that you include the proposed class, the searches of FDA public databases, other resources, including search terms used to establish that no legally marketed device and no classification regulation for the same device type exists. Provide a list of regulations that may be relevant. You should also provide a rationale for why the subject device does not fit within and or is different from any identified classification regulations, 510Ks, PMAs, or other product codes based on available information. And include specific questions regarding review issues relevant to a planned de novo request, insofar as they are necessary in order for FDA to consider the specific questions. The pre-sub should also include the following: each identified risk to health, briefly identify ongoing or planned protocols and studies that need to be completed to collect the necessary data to establish the device's risk profile, information regarding the safety and effectiveness of the device, cite the types of valid scientific evidence you anticipate providing in your de novo request, including types of data, studies relating to the device's safety and effectiveness, briefly describe any ongoing or planned protocols or studies that need to be completed, and also protocols for non-clinical and clinical studies, including how they will address the risks you anticipate and targeted performance levels that will demonstrate that general controls or general special controls are sufficient to provide a reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness, and the proposed mitigation measures that you would institute. Examples of some questions to pose to FDA in a de novo PreSub are included here for you to potentially use as a reference. And after you submit your PreSub, FDA may ask you for clarification or to provide more information. You may also request meetings with FDA. For more information on PreSubs and meeting with FDA staff, please see the PreSub guidance listed above. In terms of the de novo request itself, it should include all information and evidence you are aware of regarding the safety and effectiveness of the device, including the general controls or general and special controls that you believe would provide reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness. And it should establish the risk profile of the device, establish the benefits of device use, and provide valid scientific evidence demonstrating the performance characteristics of the device. And attachment 2 contains the suggested content of a de novo request that we'll get into here shortly. And for de novo requests, you must submit at least one valid e-copy. And here you can go check out the e-copy guidance. And again, as for all submissions, these de novo requests submitted without a valid e-copy will be placed on hold, and the review clock will not start until a valid e-copy is received. And then here are some addresses for de novo requests. And then the FDA review process for de novo requests. So a 510K followed by a de novo request. If at the end of FDA's review of a 510K, FDA determines that a device is NSE due to lack of a predicate, a new intended use or different types of technology issues, FDA may indicate that the device may be suitable for review under the de novo classification process. The 510K review will occur per standard review practices for 510Ks and in accordance with current performance goals. If FDA believes general controls or general and special controls may provide reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness, then they may indicate in the NSE letter that the product may be appropriate for the de novo classification process. Inclusion of this language within an NSE letter does not indicate that sufficient information currently exists within the 510K submission to support a successful de novo request, but simply indicates that given the risk profile of the device, it seems reasonable that de novo classification may be appropriate. In terms of the request itself, if you go, let's say, straight to a de novo request without an intermediate 510K NSE, once a de novo request is received, whether or not it is preceded by a 510K, FDA will verify that another submission for the same device from the same requester is not under review. It could be a PreSub 510K or PMA. FDA will not review two submissions for the same device from the same requester simultaneously. If FDA identifies another submission for the same device, they will place your file on administrative hold. FDA will also check that the content of the de novo includes the information required. There's another video on that you can go check out in terms of what needs to be included in your submission. And there's also a discussion in attachment 2 here about what should be included. And just a note, if your de novo request is placed on hold, the review clock stops and FDA will notify you that it is on hold pending receipt of information regarding potential predicates or a draft proposal for special controls. In the event you do not provide the requested information within 180 calendar days, FDA will consider your de novo request to be withdrawn. During COVID, this has been extended, but that'll only be extended during the COVID public health emergency. So as soon as that ends, this extra 90-day extension that you potentially have to this 180 calendar days to respond, it'll go back to 180 calendar days. Next, FDA will conduct a classification review of legally marketed device types. They'll analyze whether an existing legally marketed device of the same type exists. Again, as we discussed above, FDA does not anticipate that de novo requests for the same device type will frequently be under review concurrently. However, in cases where a de novo request is granted while another device of the same type is under review in a separate de novo request. After the first de novo request is granted, FDA intends to notify the submitter of the other de novo request still under review that a predicate has been established and that the de novo request still under review will be declined. The submitter of the declined de novo request may leverage all information in the de novo request by incorporating it by reference in a new submission, but will still be required to demonstrate substantial equivalence in a subsequent 510K, including conformity with the newly established special controls for the device type if Class 2. Upon successful completion of the submission and classification review, FDA will begin the substantive review of the de novo request. If the de novo request is missing information and/or data necessary to determine whether general controls or general and special controls can provide reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness, then FDA may issue an additional information letter. Again, you get into this hold clock. And then FDA will make a final decision once you've gone through that whole process, as we walk through in the flowchart. And then they will either grant or decline your de novo request. And then a final order will be published in the Federal Register. And if a de novo is granted, FDA intends to make the written order to the submitter granting the de novo request and a summary of the review of the de novo request available on the CDRH website. And that would be here for CDRH and here for CBER. Once a de novo is granted, then the subject device may be used as a predicate for future 510K submissions. Information posted to the FDA website will be redacted to protect any confidential commercial, trade secret, or personal privacy information in accordance with 21 CFR Part 20. But bear in mind, there's going to be some information that you may not necessarily want out there that's going to have to end up in what probably gets posted to FDA's website anyway. So just bear in mind that not everything you consider confidential commercial information is going to be kept as such. Anything that you're going to have to put in a summary is going to make its way to the FDA website. So just be careful about what information you're putting into that. Here we get into, again, attachment 1, which we looked at. Attachment 2 is recommended content that I recommend you go through and check out. Make sure that you include all of this information. It's pretty standard medical device information that's going to be requested in most submission types. Administrative information about who you are and how to get a hold of you, and the regulatory history if there are 510Ks or PreSubs or any other information like that. The device information and summary is going to be a device description, the indications for use, a change summary if appropriate, a classification summary as described above, a classification recommendation, a class 1 or class 2, supporting protocols and or data, summary of benefits, and here's the link again to factors to consider when making benefit risk determinations, and a summary of identified risk to health, risk and mitigation information. A table like this is what FDA would recommend. Benefit risk considerations, device labeling, and this benefit risk consideration piece in particular is going to be very important, especially when thinking about what general or specifically special controls may be required. That's it for this particular guidance, but I did want to also present to you a couple other things. One, in terms of the effect on FDA review clock and goals. Here, if you take a look at MDUFA 4 goals, the review time in FDA days is 150, being the target. And for fiscal year 2020 and for fiscal year 2021, we're looking at a 60% or 65% target for the number of submissions that are going to meet this review time in FDA days. So this is the number of days FDA has to review on average, and they're aiming to meet this goal 60 and 65% of the submissions respectively for each of these fiscal years. And for FY 2022, we're talking about 70% is the goal. So that means 30% of de novo submissions are anticipated to miss this 150-day window by FDA. So just bear that in mind. And if a final decision has not been rendered within 180 FDA days, FDA will discuss with the requester in a meeting or teleconference all outstanding issues with the submission, preventing FDA from reaching a decision. And then in terms of user fees, there's another guidance document here. And specifically, there are some questions here regarding user fees. What submissions are subject to a user fee? An original de novo request is. An additional information request is not. De novo request submitted by a state or federal government sponsor, not if the device will not be commercially distributed. A de novo request intended solely for a pediatric population, a de novo fee is not required. A de novo request for a device for which the previous de novo request was declined, yes, you're going to need a new fee. When will FDA refund a de novo user fee? They'll refund you if you qualify for one of the fee exceptions here. If FDA declines your de novo request, they will not refund you. If you withdraw your de novo request, FDA will not refund you after it's been accepted for review. If FDA considers your de novo request to be withdrawn, they will not refund you. If you fail to submit a valid e-copy before the original de novo request enters acceptance review, yes, they will refund you if you request it. And if you fail to submit a valid e-copy for a de novo amendment or supplement, and that's why your submission gets messed up or you miss a deadline or it becomes considered withdrawn, FDA will not refund your payment. So make sure that you're including your e-copy in your responses and supplements, any amendment here. FDA determines your submission does not meet the acceptance criteria during acceptance review. FDA will refund your fee upon request. So just be mindful of this. If FDA accepts your submission and then you withdraw, you lose your user fee. But if it's not accepted and you withdraw, then you may be able to get that money back. And what fee you have to pay for a new submission following a de novo decline determination. For a new de novo request, yes, you have to pay. For a 510K, yes, you must pay. For a reclassification petition, no. For a PMA, yes. For an HDE, no. So keep this in mind as well. You're not going to be getting a discount on a 510K following a decline de novo. So that's a pretty serious hit financially. If you go de novo and then FDA tells you to submit a 510K, you spend some serious money to then pay some more money for a follow-on 510K. And here's just for examples where the current MDUFA user fees sit. The standard fee is here on the left, and the small business fee is here on the right. I definitely recommend, if you qualify, go through, do the paperwork. You need to have done this before you submit. Otherwise, you won't qualify for this reduced fee. And as you can see, for de novos, it's quite substantial. It's a difference between almost $110,000 versus a little over $27,000. And then just a reminder again, here's this automatic extension. There's some user fee questions related to COVID-19. And as identified here, what is FDA's policy for marketing submissions or applications currently on hold? FDA identifies that they're going to give you an additional 90 days beyond the relevant response date until this guidance is withdrawn. That fairly well wraps things up for today. Just want to thank you for joining me for today's video. And we'll go ahead and recap a couple key takeaways for today's video. One, what is the de novo classification process and when can it be used? Two, how to submit a de novo request for FDA review. And three, FDA review process, timeline, and user fee questions. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Give us your input and let us know what you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks again for joining us, and you have yourself a wonderful day.